Well, Mr. Horst, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Lynch with a Leader. It is an honor to have you.
It's my pleasure.
Well,
The
it
pleasure
is
is with you.
your story is just fascinating. Hotels are what has been in your fiber for so many years. Even when you were a little boy, hotels fascinated you. Walk us back a little bit in your story and why the hotel world has always been part of your blood and part of who you are.
The real foundation, I don't know, but I know I went to my parents when I was about 11 and told them that I would like to work in a hotel and become a waiter and a cook or whatever and be in a hotel. And of course, there was no response to that. Say, yeah, sure. And because after all, you don't take it serious when somebody with 11. I know my daughter came to me and said she wanted to be a canine policewoman when she was 11. Excuse me. And I asked her why. She said, because I like dogs and I like to give orders. But I went to my parents and they didn't take it serious. But I kept on insisting and asking for it, and I kept on talking about it. And pretty soon, in fact, my grandfather said, don't say it anymore. He was getting embarrassed because that's not something you did in Germany during that time. After the war. That was 53, mind you. But I kept on insisting. But nobody knows, not I, nor my parents knew why I got that idea, because I had never been in a hotel. There was no hotel in the village where I grew up. I had never been in a restaurant before. Mind you, we came out of the war. And so, but I kept persisting, and eventually my parents inquired in a government agency, what would you do to have a career in the hotel business? Well, you would start in the beginning, but preferably in the best hotel possible. So they found a job in the best hotel in the region at the time, which was about 100 kilometers away from my hometown. And at that time, that was far. You take the train and change 3 times to get there and so on. But with 14, my mother took me there. Dad was working. My mother took me there. I lived in a dorm room with other kids, and I started working as a busboy there. In fact, I should hook into that first day, because that was a defining day, the first day when I got there. My parents had already told me ongoing, this is a hotel where only fine ladies and gentlemen go. We could never go there. This is only for important people and for fine people and rich people, but we could never go there. Now behave yourself accordingly. And no, typical mother tells you what to do, take a shower, wash your socks, and so on. And when we got there, the general managers spoke to my mom and I for about 10 minutes, telling me that the guests there were very important ladies and gentlemen. And I was there, part of the team that has to serve them. And in fact, me learning to serve them. And that was the same speech, and with other words, he literally said, you're nothing, they're important, and you have to understand that you're nothing, you have to take care of. But the next one I talked the same day was the maitre d' of the hotel, the person where I actually reported to and worked with. And he said, he changed with 2 sentences my life. And he said, the first thing he said, now, tomorrow, show up at 7 a.m. If I meant 1 minute after 7, I would tell you so. It's 7. And so he established rules and regulation and preciseness and expectation right there with one sentence. Now, not that I got that and evaluated that, but I heard him, but I learned that over the next few years working with him. An exceptional human being. And the next thing he said was, and don't come here to work. come here to be excellent in what you're doing.
Mm.
Create excellence. In fact, he used the English word excellence. And he spoke a number of languages fluently and so on. He was an exceptional human being. And that's the beginning of the career. And I spoke with a friend a few days ago. We told him successes in our careers, in our life, and what we do and how we think. We all the impact of, but the impact many people had on us. We started with our parents, of course, and our values and so on. And that gentleman impacted my life, dramatically. I was lucky at some others.
And I wonder if you had met somebody else, if you had met somebody who didn't do their job with excellence and who didn't attack each day with fervor and vigor, how differently your career could have ended up.
Exactly. That's what I wonder. And now it was also on a total different economic level when we were in a very fine hotel, but at home, economically lower middle class in a village, there were also values. You live certain values. That was there too. That helped too. But if I wouldn't have run into him, I don't know what would have happened in my career. I mean, he was an example. He talked about his time in England, his time in France, his time on the ship working and so on. And he created a longing of learning that way too, to go out there and learn languages and become better. And that was typical at the time, recommending once you're finished with your base apprenticeship here, which is 3+ years, go on work seasons so you get exposed to new hotels and new countries. Don't stay in Germany, move into Switzerland, go to France, go to Czechoslovakia or wherever. So he gave that type of encouragement at the same time.
What were the things your parents taught you by letting you chase your dream that became so invaluable to your journey and who you are today?
Yeah, well, frankly, my mother never forgave herself that she let me go with 14. Literally. Now, they were proud that I was successful and so on, but she said, how could I, as a mother, let a child of 14 go and live by himself and so on? But the values were there. I mean, give you a very simple little example. It's funny what impact we have on children. I remembered, they told me, don't smoke. Now, everybody smoked at the time. And there's nobody around me, the kids that I work with, who didn't smoke. In fact, I finally met when I was 18 or so, a girlfriend, had a girlfriend that smoked. And in her group, they kind of literally forced me to smoke, to take a cigarette. But the conscience was so strong from my parents put into me. I had a bad conscience, and then took one puff and said, wait a minute, that's why I go against the rules of my parents. This is not worth it. And I said, never again, and never again touched a cigarette in my life. Now, with other words, there were many other values, but this is such an easy example, clear example, that values that you give to your children, that you're responsible as parents to establish great values to your children. Don't be, and I've learned with my children, never mind when you think they don't get it when they become teenagers. It sticks. That's somewhere right. It's there. And we see that, I see that with my children.
As your career began to grow and you began to travel, not everybody you met in that industry was Mr. Zeitzer. Not everybody had the love and the passion for what they did. Sure. Was that hard for you to go, gosh, I learned to do it this way. Now, as I'm moving up the ladder, not everybody wants to do it that way. What was that struggle like?
Yeah. And if you have young people listening on the podcast, I really would like to give a message relative to that. I stayed, and it was exceptional how this man impacted me. But there was not the slightest compromise relative to what is excellent and what we were doing. If it wasn't, the fork was totally straight. If there would have been just a sense of it is not straight, he would have called me right away and said, that's not excellent. If anything you did, and so there was constant reference to, is that excellent? So before I left, and constant reference, you are here to create excellence. And so before I left there, he said, come here, look me in the eyes and promise me never to go to work. Look me in the eyes. And I promised him, obviously, and I took off. Season in Switzerland, season on the ship, Honda America line, another season in Switzerland, worked in Paris, worked in London, worked a little stint in between in Germany again, and then came to the United States. And the point is, I came to San Francisco, where I lived in the famous, had a little dirty furnished room in the famous Tenderloin district, about 3 blocks away from the Hilton Hotel, where I worked as a room service waiter.
Wow.
Now, my whole thought was, I will go back within a year or two. After I learned the language pretty well, I'm still working on that part, and after I have gotten a promotion in my work, and I could see that job in room service was a promotion job, because the supervisors who got promoted by the manager, they got promoted out to restaurant manager and so on. And I knew I was by far the best waiter there. That was totally no question about it. I know service from the left, right, how to touch a plate. I know everything. And the other kids only knew how to take an order and deliver the food. And I had another in, because the manager was German too. So I knew the next promotion is mine. That was totally clear. And then sure enough, one of the supervisors got promoted after about 6, 7, 8 months there. I don't know exactly. And that was my job. And the manager said, tomorrow morning, everybody's staying here at 8 o'clock. We say goodbye to Bill, and we'll announce the next supervisor, which of course was me. So I went to that meeting the next morning, and we applauded Bill for his new promotion. And the manager announced Fred as the new supervisor. And I knew I wasn't Fred. I knew that. And that was a major blow to my ego. It establishes to me that management is stupid at the time. It took me several months to admit the other guy deserved it more. The other guy came to work a few minutes early. I was very young, I partied. I came to work a few minutes later. Not much, no big deal. Why would anybody worry about that? The other guy, when he walked in, said, good morning, everybody. And I said, morning. And you could see from 100 yards that I was tired. And when the manager asked to do some side work in our business, like folding napkins, the other guy said, I'm happy to. And I said, why me? And when I came to the realization that I went to work, I went to work. I didn't go to create excellence anymore. I went back to my furnished room and talked to the maitre d'. Now, he had passed away. He didn't show up as a ghost, nothing. But I was talking to him and I apologized. And I promised him it would never, ever happen again. And it didn't. And of course, in the beginning, I wrote on my mirror, go to work for excellence and so on. I worked on it until it became norm to try and accomplish excellence, not compromise excellence. Why would we do this as human beings? Why would we go to work? The chair in which we're sitting is working. We are human beings. We should have a higher intent in what we do. And
if you had gotten that promotion
Yeah.
and hadn't experienced that setback, would you be who you are today?
Yeah, that's a good point. Probably not. Oh, I probably would have seen it sooner or later. Because again, somewhere those values stick, and that's why, and that is really a key element to understand that we have to keep on giving values for those around us, and that's one of our role as leaders, and not give up because some don't get it. Something is left in their mind and eventually will be applied to their behavior. Nevertheless, I believe, don't give up. And that's true about your children and your relationships, and of course, those that you lead. You keep on leading, knowing, as long as the word leading is always one of those things. As long as you know your leadership is good for them, you can work in a way without compromise and have high demand. High intent calls for high demand in others. As long as you know it's good for them, you can do that, and you have to do it. And in fact, you have to do that. That's the leadership. I see everybody talks about leaders. Most people, there are not many leaders. There are a lot of managers, but not leaders.
You are known for Ritz-Carlton. That's where the world began to know your name.
Yeah.
Take us back a little bit in the story and how Ritz-Carlton became what we know it as today, as the excellence and the gold standard of customer service. Take us a little bit back in that story and how that came to be.
I'm happy to talk on that, and I will. But before I do that, I would like to say I started another hotel company after Ritz-Carlton in the ultra luxury segment. And that hotel company is now rated #1 hotel company in the world.
Wow.
Far ahead of anybody. And it is, I don't own it anymore. It was sold a few years ago, 3 years ago or so. But Ritz-Carlton and Capella, that company is called Capella. There's none in the United States. That's why you don't know it. In Asia. In fact, I'm right now in one of those. I was a Capella in Düsseldorf, Germany. And I walking in there, I realized I haven't been in a hotel that excellent for a long time, even though I travel all the time. And so that's Capella. But how were they created? Well, they were created with a vision. It was I worked for Hyatt, and after my incident in San Francisco, my career took off like a rocket ship. I was with Hyatt. I was regional vice president, general manager, regional vice president, and then corporate vice president. I left there because I had an offer to be the operator in charge of operation for a new hotel company. They had no name, had no hotel, in fact. Now, mind you, I was in charge of food and beverage operations for 65 hotels, all Hyatt hotels in the United States. And I left. Everybody questioned me, you're leaving 65 hotels for no hotels. Well, I had a dream.
That's right.
A vision. That's right. I had a vision, and that's it. And you know, I saw something, a purpose for myself. And I set a higher intent for myself, not to just run something, but create something of excellence. And so my vision was to create the finest hotel company in the world. So as I said before, I had to question myself, of course. If that's my vision, I'm not an owner. Is that good for the owners? Is that good for every employee? Is that good for every guest? Is it good for society? And in fact, would God approve? And the answer to those questions in yourself is yes. If it is yes, you have no right anymore to compromise it. There are no more excuses. You painted yourself in the corner if you do that. And seriously, and take it serious yourself. So that's the reason I went out there. And then, of course, the next thing is, how are we going to do that? So the vision was clear. The vision, we want to be the finest in the world. And then the next question is, how are we going to do that? And that had to do, center around two things. Two groups of human beings. The human being customer, guest, and the human being employee. I cannot do it, no matter how great idea I have for the guest. I cannot do it unless the employee wants to do it. So first, we established what is the market, our market segment, our guest. What do they expect in the hotel business, in an excellent hotel? And we came up with a number of points that expect. We work processes behind to do that. And then we made sure we aligned. That's a word that's being used in business today all the time, and it's kind of nauseating because when I ask the people to talk about it, they don't know what it means. We aligned sorry, please forgive me. We aligned our employees behind the thoughts of the customer and the expectation of the customers. And we made sure in our processes that the employees didn't have to do that job, but wanted to do the job. And of course, that is leadership, to create an environment where employees want to do it and want to be part of the objective of the organization as a vision. But you go into any company, the employees don't even know the objective of the company. They know they want to make money and sell something, but don't know what the longer intent and the high intent of the organization is. So they're never aligned. In fact, businesses hire people to fulfill a function. But let me come back to what I said earlier. The chair in which we're sitting is fulfilling functions. We are hiring human beings. So why wouldn't you go to those human beings, talking to your leaders here now, and the podcast, why wouldn't you offer those human beings to join you in your objectives rather than just come to work for you? And that was the look that we took. That was the philosophy that we took with Ritz-Carlton, which created Ritz-Carlton. Employees that enjoyed working for us, no employee turnover, like the industry that has 120% turnover. Employees that were part of something, wanted to do what we said to do, knew what they were, and knew also how they would benefit if we become the best in the world, that they would benefit by having opportunities, that they would benefit by being get recognition, honor, pride. That's what they were invited to join.
In your phrase, ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen became a moniker for you guys for years that people bought into, didn't they?
Yeah, well, we have to go back on that one. Interesting enough, back to the Maitre d', and the typical German way of starting a trade that way is you work and you go once a week to the school of your métier, of your business. And I went once a week to hotel school. And after somewhat over 2 years, I was 16, we were asked to write an essay, 3 pages, what we now think of our business. So going back to work that night, it goes to your mind what I'm going to write. In that moment, the maitre d' entered the restaurant. And he went to a table. Now back to, they are very important, we are not. Remember? That's what we were told, including by my mother, my dad. In that moment, when he entered the restaurant, he approached the table, and I could tell the guests on that table were proud that he came to them. Now, wait a minute, that's a reversal. That's a reversal. Those important ladies and gentlemen, proud that the maitre d', server, comes to them. And I contemplated that when I went to write my essay, and I realized my light went on. I mean, I remember sitting there nearly fulfilled, because I realized the reason why they were proud, because he had defined himself as somebody special.
Well, that's
And I
great.
realized that anybody can do that. It's not the world, which unfortunately we think today that defines us. The way that's a cop out, the way, just so you know, all of you that think the world defines you, your neighbors or the race or whatever defines you, because it doesn't. You define yourself. And I knew it when I was 16, and I wrote an essay and said, we are, ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen.
Mm.
If we are excellent, then we are ladies and gentlemen. We define that. That is our decision to make. And it's each individual's decision to make who you are. And if you decide that you're no good, well, then you are no good.
Mm.
Simple as that. But if you decide that you're excellent, then you have to live up to it. You live up to it. That's the way you define it. It's not a decision. The decision is just to do it.
Mm.
Have a higher intent in your life and not wait for others to bring you something.
Mm. That is
And I learned that
powerful.
night, and sitting in my little room and writing an essay, thinking about this gentleman who created excellence, not something consequently, was highly admired and respected by everyone. Oh, and then I realized, my goodness, even if I'm a dishwasher, and by the way, I have met dishwashers who define themselves as human beings of excellence. All right, so even as a dishwasher, I can still define myself as a person of excellence.
How quickly do you pick up when you walk into a hotel, when you walk into a restaurant, when you walk into
about a second and a half?
What comes across first to you when excellence isn't present?
Look, you must understand. I am, since I'm 14, I am in hotels. It's not a matter of analysis. It's a matter of feeling immediately when you walk in. Like today, of course, this was a hotel that I ran as a company. It was a Capella Hotel. And when I walk in here, you just know immediately it's right. It's right. And of course, I could see if a lamp light is crooked, or if they're on the floor, or if a bulb is burned out, or a painting is not totally straight, or if there is a small spot on the, look at it. I mean, it's crazy. I come into a town, they have a beautiful red welcome carpet, but it has dirt on it. I mean, come on, it's already over. How to say hello? Do they look at you and say hello? Good morning, good afternoon. Do they look in the eyes? Do you feel that they are happy that you're there? Do you know it with their because of their eyes? That all those things, of course, we taught in Ritz-Carlton. You must look everybody in the eyes when they come within 10 feet. And still answering the question how Ritz-Carlton happened. That's, so we selected the right employees. We taught all those expectations, including behavioral expectation from the customer. We taught it. We had a great selection program. We had a great orientation program. We had a great teaching program. We had a great program of sustaining what we taught. And that was done to finish the Ritz-Carlton picture, how it happened for you. That was done by repeating one of the key elements of service every day. We had 20 elements. And today, maybe element number 12. If anybody asks for direction, don't point, take them there. And then we taught them how to create a relationship while they walk with them. And then, of course, in 20 days, you have to listen to that again. Now, management got tired to repeat the things because after all, everybody knows it. And finally, that also is part of leadership. I had to tell them, if you don't do it, I will fire you as a manager. Because I know that will make us number one in the world. And I know I have responsibility for all concerned to make this number one in the world. I have made that commitment. Because if it makes us number one in the world, why would we give up? Keep it front of mind. In fact, at the time I said, do you know what Coca-Cola is? Yeah, I said, Coca-Cola knows that you know what Coca-Cola is, yet they spend billions of advertising to keep it front of mind.
Right.
And that's what we did with all the stuff that we understood the customer want, repeat. hired accordingly, oriented accordingly, trained accordingly, and sustained it. So that's answers in a long story the question that you asked.
Well, in the book Excellence Wins, you say there's 3 universals every customer has that you're going to be no defects, timeliness, and someone be nice to them. Why are those? They sound so simple, but yet when they're met, they make such a powerful difference. Unpack that a little bit.
And think about how big that is. I mean, and this is a fact. I mean, if you want to buy anything, that's what your subconscious expectations are. I mean, I always use the example of bottle of water because in meetings, usually there's a bottle of water around. If you buy a bottle of water, what do you want? No defect. No one has to swim in there. You want it timely when you want it. And want the people who give it to you be nice to you. There's an expectation that you have.
Yeah.
And incidentally, we looked into that very carefully. It's all people have it. In Africa, they have it. Our employees in Africa, our employees in China, our employees in Germany, and our employees in Japan, about in Jamaica. They knew it all, and the guest there has the same expectation. So far about so much about race discussions, It's all the same. They all look here. Maybe I'm the biggest expert about race situations in America because I work with all blacks in Africa. I work with all blacks I work with all Chinese. I work with all Germans. And guess what? It's all the same. There's some good ones and some bad ones. And that subconscious expectation that we just touched on by the customer is the same in all races. Now, there you are.
And I love that none of those things take talent. There's no talent involved in timeliness, not having defects, and just somebody being nice. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room to do that.
Exactly. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room to be friendly and nice to people and look them in the eye and say good morning. I was recently in a 5-star hotel, well known, and they knew that I was a guest. They upgraded me to a suite, to villa by the ocean, and I walked in the morning very early. I walked by the pool where the employees were setting up a buffet, and to the lobby to buy a newspaper. I walked by about 20 employees. Nobody looked me in the eyes and said good morning. That's a 5-star hotel. I mean, my goodness. And that's what it is, because like everything else, our business is becoming a commodity. Like everybody else. And let's be honest, what do the boards talk about? Do the boards really talk about what the customer wants, or is the board talking how to make more money? In our internal meetings, I didn't allow to talk about money. I want to talk about the stuff that makes money, being friendly and nice and so on. Money will come.
That's exactly right. And you gave a great quote in the book. You talked about a quote from a pastor in an old quote, but there's a broken heart in every pew. How does that drive how you as a leader looked at the people that walk through the doors? They may be in a 5-star, they may be paying a lot of money for that room, but knowing that, what did it help you, and how did it help you serve them better?
Yeah, it's interesting. Not long ago, this year, I spoke to a group of classic hotels of America, which are the great hotels in a convention, and the owners and general managers were there, and a speaker before me, a lady who's running a very beautiful resort, and she's running it well, by the way, just on the side. But she said in her speech, in half an hour, and I'm not excited, at least 30 times in half an hour, she said, forget everything you know, everything is new. And of course, we're talking everybody talks about the high technology that is applicable in every new business. And of course, she kept on saying that. And when I came up to speak next, I said, nothing is new. Because you see, the key element, when we say that, we cannot forget that the one thing that is not new is that a human being wants to be respected and treated accordingly. And that hasn't changed in the last 10,000 years or whatever, and it won't change. So our technology, when we talk about it, and all we do, if it's serious, we should use it to support the caring and responses and service to the customer. And because to take that in a different way today, particularly you probably have some young and older people, the father of today's millennials, in fact, the father that came to the Ritz-Carlton 30-some years ago, the father arrived in a tie, in a suit, and wanted arm's length service. Welcome, we're glad you're here, but arm's length. And then take me to the room and leave me. I tell you when I want something. The son arrives with blue jeans and holes in him. And he's trying to say, look here, I'm a dude like you, which is a terrible lie. Because the son needs more to be told that we respect him than the father did. And that's a fact. And if we don't know that and think that everything is technology and not showing respect and caring to the customer, to the human being, but come on, love your neighbor as yourself. It's the technology doesn't show any love, not much love. It supports me in showing love.
That's good.
But it doesn't show love. So it's not everything new.
That's really good.
The way we do it may be new. And the expectation, the need of the human being that walks in there to be cared for is not new, and it will never be new. It will never end to have the human being to have that need.
If you could sit down and spend 30 minutes with every leader, and on this podcast, you'll have CEOs of companies. We're going to have mayors of communities and police chiefs and athletic directors. You got all facets. So you've got and pastors, a wide range of people listening.
Yeah.
If you could sit down and spend 30 minutes with them and say, if you could just get this, it would make all the difference in the world. What would that be?
I lost it for 1 second. Please forgive you. Froze for 1 second. If you could just, and then repeat.
If you could just get this one concept, it could change everything about your leadership. What would you tell them?
Well, very definitely, unquestionably, you have to be aligned in your long-term objective. That's the look here. What does leadership? What's the word leadership mean? You mean you're leading somewhere, but it cannot be a secret where you lead them. And wherever you lead, it has to be of great value to all concerned, as we discussed. It has to be exciting. It has to be something you want to be part of, to accomplish. You want to give something to accomplish that. Yes, I want to be part of this. So establish a great vision. And so please forgive me, and dealing with a little cold. And let me give you an example. I work with these beautiful people. I mean, a number that is one example, because the easy one, a bank in Texas, a little bank in Texas, where I consulted with a number of years ago, 7 years ago, and sitting down with that group and said, what's your vision? Who you want to be in 15 years from now? Yeah, well, we want to be nice. We are nice people. We are doing this. And I said, I don't care what you do. Where does your doing take you? And nothing came out. We after 12 hours, and we finally established we want to be a leading financial institution of America. Now, first, when that came up, people laughed. You must be kidding. We are a small bank in America, in Texas, in a small town. I mean, silly. And I said, well, wait a minute. I like that. Why wouldn't you? I'm not saying what can I be. What do you wish to be? Not what we can be. So what have we got done finally? And finally, it was adopted. Now suddenly, they all had a common purpose. They weren't just work here and there. The work was done for a purpose, not just to make money. If it is only to make money, it's not different than wild animals foraging for food. Even they do it so they can raise they can have the strength to build a den and so on. Now, here all of a sudden we have a higher intent, and human beings have a higher intent. And excellence is not an accident. Excellent is to have a high intent and work for that intent. So that's what we did there. Now, that bank was incidentally last year voted third best medium-sized bank in America. And by the way, the CEO sent me a note. We're going to change our vision. Now, mind you, there was absolutely unacceptance of being one of the best financial institutions in America. It wasn't exact. Come on, you must be kidding. We finally said yes. And now they want to change the vision. And he said, we're going to write now the vision. We will be the leading financial institution in America. Now, everybody has a reason, as a line to create thought that clearly, if you're thinking human being and you work there, you know that that would be of value to you. You would gain recognition, honor, respect, more opportunities. Everything comes with it. And that's what if you're a sport group, or if you're a church, or if you are a club, or for money and not for money, it doesn't matter. It has to be clear where you want to go together. And after you have established that, how are we going to do it? What would make us stand? What would make us, what defines us being the best? If you will. We have more guests for us, more guests are happy, we make profit, etc. We established that.
Why are so few willing to do that? That is something that's achievable to shoot for. Not everybody's going to be the best, but it's achievable to shoot for. Why do you find so many organizations that go, God, we'll settle for less because of the work that'll take? Why do you think it's easier to choose that?
I have belief in it, but I don't know. I mean, I give you an idea. I looked at 65 general managers that, for all intents and purposes, report to me that I looked at every day, and I want to know who are the leaders and who are the managers. I came to the conclusion after 3 years that of the 65 general managers, there may be 5 leaders and the rest of them are managers.
Wow.
And I want to give you, let me give you break that down a little bit. Here I visited a hotel. I happened to be with Milwaukee. The general manager picks me up in the airport. That usually happens when a corporate guy comes in, because you're a corporate, you have some control of the future in the company. So they tell you, when they pick you up in a limousine, tell you on the way, we are so proud that you're coming, everybody's excited. And of course, you know that's not true. And they want you to leave again. Anyway, he picked me up too, and I asked a question, and that woke me up at the time. Several questions. How do you like it here? Well, I can't wait to move on. Well, that's okay. How are your employees? Well, no service culture. Okay. And then I had a question. What will your hotel be known for in this town a year from now? And here's what the answer was. And that's what I learned happens all the time. He said, if I had a bigger ballroom, if my restaurant wouldn't be on the second floor, but would be straight entrance, and he had a number of excuses for a vision that he didn't even have. My opinion after all this was, it is a lot of insecurity. They're afraid that they won't make it, but that's not the point. Set a dream and keep on going for it. And I tell you that even if you reach it, let me tell you something. We're being voted best hotel company in the world and so on. Big deal. What was excited, it was a journey doing it together with a lot of great people.
Your
yeah.
Your faith plays a lot.
Let me take the opposite for a moment.
Yes,
the next
please.
thing is I visit Columbus, Ohio, a hotel very similar, a town very similar. And the manager picks me up and he has the same story. We are so proud that he Horst, and he also wants me to leave again. But on the way to the hotel, because he knows that I'm coming there to criticize, to look at, to over. This is not normal. But on the way hotel, I said to her, how do you like the hotel? And he said, well, how do you like here? I can't wait to move out. I want to be in a bigger city. I understand. And then what about your labor force? Well, no service culture, but that's good. We can teach them hours. Oh, there's a little different answer. And the next thing, where will your hotel be a year from now in this city? And he said, I assure you, I will bet you that a year from now, this city will be proud of this hotel. I had a vision. And when you walk to the hotel with either one, you knew one was a leader, one was not. One was a manager. Now, there are many managers who are very successful economically, but they're really not moving the brand and the name and everything forward.
That's really good. You're a person of faith. How does your faith play in your journey? And especially in the world of excellence and demanding excellence of yourself every day. How does your faith balance in with that?
Well, the first thing is my early faith was I was growing up as a young Lutheran, being before confirmation. At the time, we have probably, frankly, unreasonable, tough schooling of the Bible classes and so on. Frankly, unreasonable. In fact, in front of the village, we had to pass a test. I mean,
oh my goodness!
Oh, let me tell you. And if you didn't answer, and when you run around and said, "Good job, you answered 7 questions correctly." Oh, or not. The whole village knew if you didn't answer. Anyway, so, but when you finish, the pastor gives you a word for life. And he gave me, out of the Lutheran translation now, there was one word that is not in the translations that I read now, but Psalm 91:4, he will take you under his wings. And your confidence, was the word, the confidence, will be under his pinions. His truth will be your shield and armor. It was with me all the time. It hangs in my kitchen now. It was with me all the time when something didn't go right. And I said, wait a minute. Anyway, but it's later, in my marriage to my great wife, Sherry, that I really found that there's a difference in those things in a relationship with Christ. And it became what you would call, what many people would call born again. I accepted that Christ is my Lord. Even I had said it a million times, because I often said the Apostles' Creed. It says, Jesus Christ, my Lord, you know. Yep. And so, but he wasn't. But then, so very important for a totally different peace and sanity in life. But also, many Christians that I know, the employees somehow don't seem to be neighbors. Love your neighbor as yourself.
That's right.
Now, I don't think I come close to loving them as I love myself, but I certainly try. I certainly love them. I look at them as my friends. I go to work to be with my friends. That doesn't mean that I barbecue in the office, but I love them as my friends. I'm happy to be there. That's my decision. And if I open hotels and to go, I'm happy to go with the dishwashers and show them a little bit how to wash dishes and talk to them. And I'm happy to see them. And you know that we as Christian leaders have to be a little bit step back once in a while and say, what does it say? Love your neighbor as I said. Wait a minute, it's not a specific neighbor.
That's really good. You know, and at the end of the day, we're all in the people business. And we say this all the time at our church. If the Lord's only intent for our lives was for us to come to know him, then he would have taken us home on the day we met him, but he left us here. And That's he left Horst in the hotel business because you were going to meet people that you would never meet otherwise. As you began to grow in your faith, how did it change the purpose that you worked for as you really began for all this to begin to make sense?
Well, as I touched on earlier, and that was not there in earlier times, was that you question yourself on decisions. You make a high, you always question yourself, is that a high intent? What is my high intent here?
Mm-hmm.
And the more you grow in a Christian faith, you question yourself, would God approve? And you make decisions with prayer, and not just a spur of the moment, which I'm still guilty sometimes of doing, but that is certainly more and more. I learned how to do this, and having a great partner, my wife, helping me. That's a great thing of having a great Christian marriage too. I mean, what's your marriage really with if you cannot sit down and pray together?
That's right.
And have vision together of your life, because there too a vision has to be in there. Your life, and doing the right thing for your children and raising them to be to continue. Like my wife likes to say, we will be a nation under God, and none will be lost. With this in your mind, you will make different decisions also with your employees. But you have to, if you never sit back and think that my employees are my neighbors that I support. Right. I mean, come on, as a Christian.
It's so true. And I remember something my mom used to say when I was growing up. She said, don't ever forget there's somebody else that's better at things than you are. So don't ever think you're better, because you're not. They're better. There's going to be people, they may wear a different outfit to work, but they're no less important as you.
That's difficult for me.
It's a game changer.
That's particularly difficult to me because I'm German after all.
That's so true.
Yeah, no, but yeah, so absolutely, we have to realize that. And this is, and a taxi driver who drove me this morning, and he kind of was an immigrant here in Germany. He kind of said, we all the same, understand, but and then he said, it doesn't matter. And we have to. Why would we be unhappy? Why are you unhappy? Why? He said we got the same job. Some of them are happy, some are not happy. It's a decision. You see, again, for me, it's all a decision.
That's right.
And the decisions have to be, of course, if your decisions are good decisions, high intent. If you know that God would approve, but everything is a decision. I always give an example. Everything is a high intent. Your destiny, again, is not luck. It's the decisions that you made. And if the decisions are driven by the values that are driven by our Judeo-Christian values, well, then your decisions are driven, and then you will have a great destiny. I mean, so it doesn't matter in all this, and the whole issue. It doesn't matter if it's a sports team, or a church, or a non-profit, or a big organization, big small business, small business of one, or a business of. We had 24,000 employees when I left Ritz-Carlton globally. Now, and does it work again? The racial issues that we talk about in every location where we were number one, every location around the world, 5 continents.
That is amazing. That is amazing.
So it really doesn't matter, but you have to be driven by a great vision that is of great value to everybody, and you have to question yourself that thoroughly. Is it really good for everybody? Yeah. And share it. Show them. Let's go to them. Align them.
The Bible says, last question of the day, the Bible has a great statement, the book of Acts. It said, King David lived his purpose in his generation, and then he fell asleep. What do you think was the great purpose that God created Horst for all those years ago when he knit you together in your mother's womb, and you had this vision as a little boy of what could be and where a place you didn't even know what it was, but you just wanted to work there. What do you think was the purpose he created you for?
That's a good question that I struggle with. And we talk about that together with the question of how do I finish well? Because that fits together. And we talk about that a lot, my wife and I. What is it? Why? Now, I had a very unusual incident. I don't want to tell this, but it was a very unusual incident where I had now nearly 30 years ago, I had cancer, and I address that in a book too. And I tell that incident in the book, so I can tell you here. It was the moment when I was waiting. The cancer was supposed to come back within 10 months as a snowstorm. And after the initial operation, he said it will come back always as a snowstorm within 10 months to a year. And we have to take immediately a scan and see if it is already back. And so we take a scan, of course, the next day or two that I was waiting for the answer, we were in panic. I hope it's not back yet. In fact, my wife and I were lying on the floor praying when a friend of mine walked in. A friend of mine who is emotionally very even. I'm not, I go up and down in my emotions. He's very even in his emotion. And he come in and said he had a vision a few weeks ago at the middle of the night. Somebody was in the room and told him, don't worry about your friend Horst, which is me. I have other plans for him. He will speak for me in English and in German. And that may be it, that I make speakers up business, but I make it clear always that I believe. And I believe I made a decision, and even that is nothing but a decision. Because, you know, my good friend here in Germany, who said to me, well, Horst, come on, you cannot prove that there is God. He's a proud atheist. And I said, no, but you cannot prove that there isn't.
That's right.
With other words, somehow we make a decision. It may evolve or it comes one day. So it is a decision. And I made a decision for hope, and you made it against hope. Your decision. And then he said, well, actually, I'm agnostic. Right there. But that friend came out and speak with him. And since that, I speak and have been invited to make a number of speeches in Germany. I spoke to a group of 12,000 in the arena. I spoke to the church in my village where I prayed I would have one to have the opportunity.
Wow.
And so on. So I think maybe somewhere there is the purpose for me. But the struggle still to finish well. And within God's will is still there. And I'm not quite sure. So, but I'm grateful. I had a beautiful career. God gave me the opportunity to witness about him in big groups. And again, the decision to do that, I made a decision. I have to tell you, I got a big award 20 years ago. And there was Ishikawa Award. Most people don't know it. It's very big in Asia about quality, excellence of organizational excellence of relative to people. And as I spoke to that group, I look around and was supposed to speak for a few minutes. I look around and half of them are Asians, and think, well, no, I won't mention God. And I didn't. And I sat down. The next speaker was a lady who also got the award. And she said, she got up and said, the first thing I want to do is thank God. And all right. I said, I got it. I got it. I got it. I heard you. I'm not missing it. So I had On one hand, I was told to do it. On the other hand, I got a little bit of a hit in the side when I didn't do it. So yeah, so it's a decision. By the way, I always mention to people that doesn't even in my marriage, in your marriage, and I said that I love to say that to guys. I like to say that to guys because guys, in your marriage, it's a decision to be in love. Not just still love your wife, but be in love. I'm married over nearly 45 years, but I'm still in love with my wife. I made that decision. Once you make a decision, you have to do the things to take. For example, guys, here's my little gift I give every one of the guys on the podcast. I give you a gift. Here's what you do. Next time you sit with your wife in a nice, quiet moment, living here in Germany, our home in a village where all my friends make wine. Maybe you have a glass of wine with her. Oh, if you're Baptist, don't do it. Don't do that. But so when you have a quiet moment together, ask your wife, darling, how can I be a better husband to you? And after she cries, she will tell you, and then you do it. See, what am I saying? I'm saying if it is the marriage or anything else, you have to set an objective. And you have to do things to accomplish that objective. My objective was to be in love in all my life. So I have to do things that are true. I work on everything, on my behavior, on my mind. When I drive into my driveway and the gate opens, I have a few seconds and I say, thank you, God, for my wonderful wife. Mind, I have to do what I'm telling you is really, if it is the work vision or your personal vision or anything else, be sure it is a vision. And then decide what you do and apply the things that you need to do to get to that vision. That's really the point.